Good morning, Glue Troopers. Hope everybody is having a good day. And I have a few little news items. One, I did manage to get the Exodus audio recorded yesterday. Got some sound effects attached. Not a perfect final cut, but I did get most of it down and compiled. I can always recut it and recompile it, but runs about 10 minutes total, which is a little longer than I expected, but that's okay. I was actually afraid it would come up a little bit short. Basically, this is going to be a radio show with pictures. And so I am getting ready to get out there. I still have to do a little painting on a few of the figures, touch them up. Mostly the infantry guys, and a little filing, a little shaving. Those old Monogram infantry kits have a fair amount of flash on them, and since some of it's on like rifle barrels and stuff, then it can be a little tricky to get them, filed down without breaking something. I'm sure we've all had that time we've broken a delicate part trying to sand or cut off flash. One thing I find interesting about that Monogram 135th scale infantry is that it's an interesting mix. Some of the soldiers are carrying M1 Garands and some are carrying M14s, and the machine gun is a M60. So, although I do know that there was considerable overlap between the M1 and the M14 both being in the inventory, I wouldn't think that an infantry squad would have both of them issued, because they use different ammo and everything. So if you were going to use the guy with the M1 Garand and the guy with the M14, then they would be from separate units, possibly like National Guard and Regular Army, something like that. M14 is, I have an M1A, which is the civilian version of the M14, and I really love it, but the early ones that came out had some serious quality control issues, it was hard to believe that the same people had made the same arsenal system that had made M1s so expertly just a decade or so later would have so much trouble making a similar rifle. But I guess John M. Garand had retired. They actually had to bring him out of retirement to help fix the issues. And I think they'd lost a lot of their talent. Probably had retired or whatever. But and as much as I love the M14, I think it's a great rifle. The adoption process for it and everything, and it was basically a jobs program. The good old boys trying to keep the old arsenal system going. In fact, I've heard it stated by many historians that the M14 debacle, which I think was part of the T-44 program, is actually what brought down, put the final nail in the coffin of the arsenal system and the Ordnance Corps and everything. You see, for those who don't know, there used to be there used to be what they called the arsenal system. You actually had military arsenals. Now they were run by companies like Springfield and so on and so forth, but and Rock Island, but they solely contracted the military, and it was a good old boy system, and it was just an outdated system. Back then the idea of having a private sector company like Armalite or Colt make your guns for you and was just, no, you've got to be part of our arsenal system. And I'm sure there was a time when that was the way to do it, but that time had passed. So that can be a tricky thing if you're modeling infantry figures and dioramas. Is if you think tanks and planes and cars are complicated, imagine the number of changes that took place in personal equipment. And it doesn't even matter what the era is, because in the time I was in, the 4 years I was in the Army, we had equipment changes. In fact, we had a pretty big one. We went from the old olive drab green fatigues to the actually they were green fatigues. I think they weren't even olive, really what you'd call olive drab anymore. They call it OD green. It was more of it wasn't like the World War II OD. That was actually olive. It was just drab green. But anyway, we went from those to the BDUs. The battle dress uniform. I was like, oh, we're dressing for battle these days? But so we went from, straight green fatigues to the camouflage, the woodland pattern camouflage. And a whole bunch of stuff was taking place. So if you're modeling, figurines, infantry or whatever, it can be really, really hard to not stick, especially when they like with monogram mixing and matching M14s and M16 or M1 Grands in the same box. It's really easy to get that stuff wound up with a diorama that's just not as accurate as you might want it to be, depending on how specific you are. And the M16s, when they were issued, first you had the ones with the 3 prongs, and then with the bird cage flash suppressors on the end, and that thing's gone through a dozen iterations. And I carried the M16A1, which is only really technically the second issued version. But not long after I got out, they came out with the H bars, which are the heavy barrel ones, and it just kept going. And that's not even getting into web gear. It's not a problem if you're trying to make a very accurate diorama. It's not a problem if you make one of a character who's got older equipment, because older equipment tends to stay in inventory. But the moment you put out something that, this diorama takes place at this time. Oh, at that time they didn't have that. The moment you put out a character that has something that hadn't come out yet, that's when some eagle-eyed observer, that guy is gonna. I'll give you a classic example. You see it in the movies all the time. The popular M1 carbine rifle. Now, almost every picture you see of one these days, it has a little lug under the barrel, which is for mounting a bayonet. But if my information is correct, that was a Korean War thing. In World War II, they didn't have that little add-on lug for the bayonet. So if you see a guy making a World War II diorama and one of those guys got an M1 carbine that's got that bayonet lug, or you're watching a movie and you see technical glitch. And anyway, so yeah, equipment changes and the stuff, and often the people who manufacture kit models don't quite get it right. And I'm sure you all have plenty of stories of a time that you saw something in a kit model and you knew that, wait a minute, that's not right. That's not correct to this version. So anyway, it can be really hard to get all the details right. That's one reason I kind of personally quit sweating it. And I'm just like, you know what? I mean, that's fine. If it matters to you, it matters. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it mattering. I'm saying that if it doesn't matter to you, then just relax about it. And if one of your buddies points, well, just go, okay, big deal. My universe, my world, make it my way. I make it whatever I want it to be. But if you are planning to get to a competition or something, then you might want to, go ahead and file those little things off or make those little changes. And God bless putties and files, because they can change anything into anything. And so, in fact, I made the little girl that's in the diorama. I didn't have a 1/48 scale model of a little girl, so I got a 1/72 scale model of a little guy and used putty to make hair and make a dress and everything, just using putty and a little heat to change the shape a little bit. And a 1/72 scale figure made a good child-sized figure for a 1/48 scale diorama. So there you have it. And you guys take care. Hope you have a wonderful day. I gotta have to do just a little bit more studying. I'll probably get some photography done today after my wife and I are done with honeydews. But since I do have this these two OE legs coming up, one's an operating experience and the other's a line check, and it'll be with the same guy, but they do have things they want to see, sort of a syllabus, and go over changes. So I need to brush up on a few things, just make sure I got all the finery right, because this is like the graduation event, and it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, we just go out and fly 2 legs, but you just don't want to do anything that would embarrass yourself or cause them to say maybe we should fly some more. That's the words you don't want to hear. So I want to be ahead of the game on that. So again, won't be a whole lot of content for the next couple of days. I'll get out what I can, and I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. Model on.